What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to do a video talking about what I feel are the top 5 best secondaries to use in Warzone without the overkill perk. So that means we are going to be limited to handguns, launchers, and melee weapons. And also with this list that I made, I wanted to focus on things that are versatile that you can use in a wide variety of situations, not really niche things that might be good for one specific purpose, but then not very good in other areas. So what that means is I'm actually going to completely eliminate launchers from this as well, simply because yes, they can be good, especially in a squad. If you have a squad of people, maybe having 1 or 2 people using a launcher, that can be helpful, but as a solo player, as an individual, generally speaking, launchers just aren't going to be the best choice for you. So I want to focus on weapons that are actually good at killing enemy players in close quarters specifically. Also, just one more quick note before we kick this list off. I'm in no way saying that these secondary weapons are going to be better than picking up an enemy's SMG, for instance, if you kill an enemy. I'm not saying that these secondaries should be used in place of primary weapons if you get the opportunity. It's more so, what should you put on your Ghost class setups, for instance, as a secondary weapon where it's actually going to be helping you out still. So let's start it off with number 5 on my list. This is the dual Magnums. Now, a lot of the guns on this list are actually going to be akimbo or dual wield because, quite simply, we're dealing literally double the amount of damage within a period of time. And also, generally speaking, secondaries are used in really close quarter situations to push a building or to defend yourself from being pushed, and therefore we don't really need that ability to be precise while aiming down sight. That's what our primary weapon will be for. So with the Akimbo Magnum specifically, we are able to deal 82 damage with a single bullet to the upper chest, or 78 to the stomach. Still a lot of damage. There's really not much difference there between 82 and 78. And this means with Akimbo, we're dealing up to 164 damage per trigger pull if we're firing both of the guns at the same time. This means you can literally one-tap a person that only has 1 armor plate and full health. So if you're using this as a finisher, it's excellent. Maybe you get a few shots into a guy before he gets into a building. You can comfortably push him with that Magnum and just one-tap him, basically, because you've already got him low health, and that's a great way to take them out. But also, even if you don't get that one-tap, if the enemy has 2 or 3 armor plates, it's still going to take you just 2 taps to kill at that point, or 4 bullets. And you can do this relatively quickly. You can do this in about 435 milliseconds, which is faster than the time to kill of most of the primary guns in the game against 3 armor plates. So if you are close enough to where you feel confident that you're going to be hitting your shots consistently, the Akimbo Magnums are great at taking people out. And the great thing about this is the spread with the dual Magnums is excellent. This is how tight our spread is when we're using the best attachment for improving that, which is actually the Ember sighting point. A lot of people think it's the 5 milliwatt laser, but the Ember sighting point actually gives you a slightly better hipfire spread with Akimbo pistols. But now I want to talk about the one downside with the Akimbo Magnums, and it's just not very forgiving. It does have a fairly low fire rate, so when you start needing 3 or 4 taps to kill, then your time to kill potential is just gone at that point, and you might as well be using basically any other gun. So yeah, the Akimbo Magnums are kind of a high risk, high reward sort of weapon. Yes, you can drop somebody basically instantly, but if you're sloppy with your shots or just unlucky due to the hipfire spread, it may end up running you into a lot of problems. But moving on to the next secondary I've got on my list here, this is actually the Akimbo Snake Shots. Now I know Akimbo Snake Shots have pretty much disappeared from the game. I almost never see anybody using these anymore. However, as a lot of you guys may remember, many months ago, the Akimbo Snake Shots were completely untouchable up close. If you were in the same room as somebody using Akimbo Snake Shots, you had no chance against them. And since they were so dominant up close like this, they ended up getting a nerf. And after this nerf, pretty much everybody moved on to the Akimbo Renettis, which then also got a nerf, and then nobody ever really went back to the Snake Shots, it seems. However, I've got to say, the Akimbo Snake Shots are still pretty great as a secondary weapon. You can still clear rooms pretty effectively with them. They're excellent as finishers as well. They're just no longer that unstoppable, untouchable beast up close. So this is why the Akimbo Snake Shots made it to number 4 on my list. And this brings us to number 3 on my list, which is the dual Amadis. Once again, we've got an akimbo weapon here, and this is once again something that was once dominant in game, but it ended up getting a nerf, and now you don't see it used nearly as much. But having said this, even after the really big hipfire nerf to the dual Amadi that did give it a very noticeably wider hipfire spread, so you're much less likely to be hitting your target, I still consider this to be an excellent secondary weapon for really close range encounters. I'm talking like practically point blank. If you manage to get yourself into a situation like this, you're still going to be fairly dominant with the Akimbo Amadis. Yes, it will rely a little bit on luck due to that really wide hipfire spread, but you can definitely still make these work as a very viable secondary weapon. Once again, just make sure you're using that Ember sighting point, because this will give you the best possible hipfire spread. Now, before we move into number 2 on my list, I did want to give one honorable mention here. This is something that a lot of people were playing with at one point, but not so much anymore. This is the Kale sticks. These are actually incredible in Warzone. They give you an amazing movement speed, and also they've got a crazy lunge range. You can just be two-hitting people with this like crazy and downing them before they even realize what's going on. And while they're not quite as versatile as many of the pistols out there, they are still worth a mention on this list. Now, let's move into number 2 on my list here, and with this, we've got another set of Akimbo pistols, and this is the M19, or just the standard Renetti without the burst attachment on it. They both behave almost exactly the same here, so they're almost interchangeable when it comes to this. But with these dual-wield pistols, they aren't burst, and they don't deal a massive amount of damage per shot. However, if you got a decent trigger finger, you can spam these really quickly, and you can put somebody down very, very fast. In fact, if you've got this all maxed out and you manage to hit every one of your bullets to the upper torso, you can be killing a fully armored enemy in less than 300 milliseconds, which is way faster than any primary weapon out there. Now, realistically, of course, you're not going to hit every single bullet, but even if you do miss a few bullets here or there, you still get a great time to kill potential with these dual-wield pistols, again, assuming you have a decent trigger finger. You definitely want to be using the lightweight trigger and the 5mm laser. And if you're doing that, you can really spam these nicely and pick people off, and they're quite forgiving as well, I've found. But finally, this leads me to number 1 on this list, and I actually think this is number 1 by a long shot. This is the single Diamatti, not the dual wield. We're not using that dual wield attachment. Just one Diamatti is incredible in this game. So this is a burst pistol that's relatively accurate, at least within the ranges that you'll tend to be challenging somebody with a pistol, which is usually going to be like within the same building roughly. And with this, we're dealing 40 damage anywhere in the body per bullet, or 120 per burst, assuming every bullet in the burst hits. And this is the thing I really like about the Diamatti, is per burst, every time we pull that trigger, we're dealing 120 damage, and like I said, within the ranges that we'll be fighting in, we've got a pretty accurate burst as well. It's not like the Akimbo Magnums, where we're also dealing a lot of damage all at once, but we're kind of guessing with that due to the hipfire spread. With the Diamatti, you have full control over this, and therefore you can frequently be hitting all 3 bullets in a burst, or 120 damage, which adds up very quickly, especially if you're using it as a finisher or against somebody that doesn't have full armor plates along with full health. Now, our time to kill potential if the enemy does have full armor and full health is 667 milliseconds, which admittedly isn't amazing. This isn't going to be comparable to some of the fastest killing primary weapons out there, but this is a secondary weapon, and even in a straight up fight against somebody with full health and full armor plates, you still stand a pretty decent chance in close quarters with this single wield Diamatti. And keep in mind with this, I'm not even factoring headshots in, so if you manage to cut that down to just 2 bursts to kill, if you are hitting them in the head, then this does give you an amazing time to kill potential that does actually compete with, like, SMGs, for instance, up close. So this is why the Diamatti makes my list, and this is the class setup that I tend to use with this. Keep in mind, I still haven't done 100% extensive testing, so this might get adjusted a little bit over time. But based on the bit of testing I did with attachments on the pistols, these appear to be probably your best bet while using this. And yeah, now at this point, for pretty much any class setup I have that doesn't have overkill on it, I'm going to be having that Diamatti as my secondary. Of course, this is just my list. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you consider to be the best secondary weapon in Warzone without using the overkill perk, or obviously without picking up something off of the ground? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.